It's waxing lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mains and Duts. I'm your host, Mains, and my colleague, who definitely knows the difference between Yokohama and Nakatomi, it's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
It's just one of those places that I can never remember.
And that's why you only drew with your sister in the quiz that you've just been doing prior to the show, right?
Jay's virtual pub quiz on that little hashtag every Thursday. You should check it out. About 160,000 people on the old live stream. I'm not getting paid. He doesn't know me, but
it's a powerful stream he's got himself there. So yeah, good work by him. Does he use the Facebook?
No, it's the YouTube.
He uses the YouTube, does he? Okay, nice work. If you can indeed get it. We're not gonna do a quiz.
No.
We're gonna talk some weird world. Dug out a classic Florida man story, and also a dude who forgets that Zoom meetings and normal meetings should be treated the same way.
I am slightly worried, though, just before we go any further, that Georgia are really making a push to take over from Florida in the last few weeks, especially with their latest, that apparently teenagers will no longer need to pass a driving test during the lockdown. They just need their parents' permission.
That's a new one on me. Bravo, Georgia.
Yeah, go home, Georgia. You're fucking inebriated.
Yeah, there's a few states at the moment that seem to be drunk. To be fair, the whole world seems to be drunk in some way, shape, or form. But there you go. We're also going to talk about the NFL draft. We'll give our thoughts on what we thought of the show itself, and then a few winners and losers and fantasy go-tos. As you know, dynasty drafts are coming up, Neil. Do you know how I know that? Because we've got one on Saturday. That's how I know. That's how I know about it. So we're gonna look at that. But first of all, let's dive into the murky world of Weird World. So Neil, it's been a while doing the Weird World that we hadn't gone deep Florida man story. So I dug deep and found one. It was in the New York Post, weirdly enough. Yeah, fair enough. A Florida man allegedly tried to blame a weapons bust on John Wick, the legendary assassin played by Keanu Reeves in the eponymous movie franchise, according to a new report. Cops confronted Getro Gellin, 27, in Port St. Lucie home on Sunday after a woman told police he shoved her to the ground and threatened her with a firearm. The woman told authorities Gellin may have stashed the weapon in his Porsche SUV, according to reports. When the cops asked Gellin to explain, he said he'd sold it to his cousin John Wick, according to the affidavit. He later admitted the John Wick reference was a lie, shocking, but would reveal what his real cousin's name was.
I mean, there's the story that might be slightly apocryphal of a person being stopped by the police and saying his name was Tom O'Connor, and they wouldn't believe him. So they charged him with wasting police time, even though he had documents saying his name was in fact Tom O'Connor. But yet saying that you've sold weapons to John Wick, I mean, I've never seen a John Wick film. I do probably need to correct this, but from the premise, I'm guessing he has access to all the weapons he needs and wouldn't need his cousin to provide any.
There's only a few men who are gonna be getting John Wick weapons, and they are usually in the hotel where he takes his coin, so he can go and shoot up some people. If you haven't watched John Wick and you like watching mindless entertainment and lots of violence, I would recommend watching it. Keanu Reeves is excellent. Does exactly what he does best, which is not really acting, but like doing Keanu Reeves things.
He just is
Keanu Reeves, right? It's like when you watch The Matrix and you just think he's really good in that because Neo, has had a personality bypass operation, and you find out that they actually got really close to hiring Will Smith, almost the definition of personality, and think, how the hell would that film have bombed if it had Will Smith in it?
Yeah, no.
City official who tossed cat during Zoom meeting resigns from commission. A commissioner in Vallejo, California, resigned after throwing his pet cat and apparently drinking a beer during a Zoom meeting between city officials. During the April 20 teleconference of the city's planning commission, Chris Platzer announced, "I'd like to introduce my cat," and then he picked up his pet before suddenly tossing the animal off screen. Sorry, I'm not laughing at that. Animal cruelty is not funny.
No.
Platzer was seen sipping from a green bottle during the meeting, the Times Herald reported. After the conference ended, he could be heard making derogatory remarks. "I'm going to swear now, people. I'm going to call bullshit on you, little bitch," according to the original commission meeting video released by Northern California City. Okay. Dear Mr. What did we say his name was? Chris Platzer. You've gone to a meeting, okay? I know you're in your home. I understand that we're in a lockdown. It's very dangerous. Would you throw an animal if you were in City Hall? No, you wouldn't. Would you get pissed and call someone a bitch? I'm gonna say no on that one also. So just because you're in your house doesn't mean that you should start drinking at 9 a.m.
No, this goes back to the judge saying that lawyers should arrive appropriately dressed for court appearances.
Yeah.
You can't, basically this whole fella's meeting makes it sound like he's attended one of Train Guy's meetings, with the Jeff Linton, and he's after the pencil case designs. But yeah, the animal cruelty is never acceptable. But just okay, this is important business about our city. Hang on a sec, go.
This is my cat. And then I don't need my cat anymore, so I'm just going to lob it off screen. It's a screen. You're not on a teleconference. You're on a video conference. And video means people can see you. So as the Florida judge said, wear clothes. As me and Neil are now saying, don't throw animals. And also, don't get pissed up. Because things will end badly, and you'll probably end up having to resign, which he has done.
Being asked to resign, I think the face saver would be.
Yeah, was it mutual consent? Did he leave by mutual consent? I don't think he did, by the way. If you've got weird whales for us, please share them. It's at waxing_lyrical or individually at Mandy7 for me and at ndutton13 for Neil. Let's move on and start talking about the NFL draft, Neil. So Neil, last Saturday, Thursday through Saturday was the NFL draft. Before we get into kind of picks and stuff, I'm more interested in given the lockdown situation, what you actually thought of the draft as a televisual event, as the Americans would say.
Well, as a televisual event, I think it was fairly apparent early on that, to borrow parlance from another sport, the NFL were not going to get 9 innings out of Roger Goodell.
Yeah, no, he was still multiple dress changes and seemed to slump further and further into his chair. Like.
Yeah, the on the feet was becoming less, and by the time he's slumped back, saying with the what's that 308th pick, yeah, it was okay. I mean, one thing that I did notice, and it didn't so much happen on the first day, but on the second and certainly on the third. You could tell the experience of recording remotely and the lack thereof was starting to affect some of the participants, because obviously we've been pod now for nearly 6.5, nearly 7 years. Obviously we've done it remotely for 4, 5 of them?
4, 5 of them, yeah, definitely.
And I think even when we've been blessed to have guests on, you can count the number of times there has been an uneasy pause between one of us or the guest talking. You can probably count them on one hand. At one stage, it was literally Trey Wingo, who I've never actually seen much of. Not a bad host, no Rich Eisen, but who is. He asked a question to Mel Kiper, and Mel Kiper's hair, of course, is always worth a first round grade. He asked a question to Kiper, and Kiper didn't even answer, whether he didn't pick it up or whether he just missed that it was for him, and he just sat there.
I think sometimes to be able to be, when you're not in the same room, to be able to concentrate and focus on just that thing is difficult. There was definitely long delays. I think, I mean, I think ESPN has more stuff open, So they kind of said, we'll run the show. I think it was interesting to have Jeremiah and Kuiper on. Like, I think that's a good idea. Like, I look at it and think, yeah, I mean, you know, I'm sure ESPN would have wanted Todd McShay to be there as well, but he had coronavirus, so he couldn't. And that's, completely understandable. I love Lewis Riddick personally. I think he's great on TV. I think he's great. I look at him and think, I don't know why he's not doing more. There's Bugger McFarlane doing it like Monday Night Football, and Lewis Riddick isn't, and it doesn't make any sense to me. But that's, there's only me and millions of other people who share that opinion. So why would we go with a kind of democracy point?
Yeah, it's as you say. I mean, with Jeremiah and Kuiper, you've got one of the foremost draft experts in the country and a windbag. So it was a nice. It was a nice.
I tell you what, though, you don't like Mel, I do. What I would say is, Baltimore was absolutely and utterly covered in that draft. They could have picked a bag of potatoes, and Jeremiah and Kuiper would have been made up. Like,
well, especially when the rest of the NFL conspire to let the Ravens get probably the best linebacker in the whole draft. Because if there's one thing the Ravens have needed throughout their illustrious history, it's linebacker help.
There's a lot of Cleveland Browns fans who are spewing up, as you said, illustrious history. One thing that did not concern me, but they went very hard on these guys have suffered a lot before they got to the NFL draft. And I understand the reasoning, like I do, but after the 15th version of it, I for one was like, I'm locked in my house, and can we have some happy tales? Because this is very sad.
It was literally you were praying for someone, and the 3 bullet points would be, high football intelligence, great desire for the game, very happy, loves his mum and dad, loving family. It was like Jesus wept. It was like, I have not seen that many sob stories since the contestants went to the judges' houses and the X Factor. It was. But I'd say these weren't just minor mishaps along the way. It was like, oh my God, this is just. You've used up an entire season's soap opera storylines on this one draft class.
Favorite moment, Neil, of the I've just been picked, was it A, CD Lamb taking his burner phone off his missus, or the guy whose missus hugged him a little bit too long and kept on looking at the camera and then got basically dragged off by the hair by the draft pick's mum.
Yeah, baller move by that one. Yeah. Put it this way, if that guy gets his second contract, she won't be getting a penny of it.
Well, she will. She'll probably be getting 50% of it, given alimony checks and stuff.
No. I'm sensing that there'll probably be some people who say, we think you should just focus on football and maybe cool things off with LaDawn or whatever her name is. Yeah, that was good. I mean, Henry Ruggs in the robe.
Yeah, great. I'm not getting dressed. I don't need to.
No. It's probably no more than other years, but we've seen an awful lot of videos of the moment the players were told, and some of them are brilliant because it recaptures the innocence of the game. That ultimately it's all about money. But I mean, listening to Stephen Sullivan when he got drafted by the Seahawks, and you can tell he's obviously ecstatic, but a bit of him wants to just make sure that it really is John Schneider on the phone, because he keeps saying, "You're not playing me. You're playing me, coach. You're not playing with me. You're playing with me." And some of them, it is. I mean, the whole draft process is a job interview with one multinational corporation that just happens to have 32 subdivisions.
Yeah.
And basically, you've spent your whole time interviewing for the company, not knowing where you're going to get sent, and the culmination of that, it must be an incredible relief to these players, even if some of them have dropped and gone later than they thought. It was the human element came across quite well, but God, wind down on the tragedy.
My understanding is there's 32 NFL head coaches, and 31 of them are married. The one that isn't married lives in what can only be described as Scarface's Arizona residence Mr. Cliff Kingsbury basically upped his Tinder game to the next level, saying, "Boy, look at me."
He bought that house within 4 weeks of getting the Cardinals job based on his salary as a college coach. But you can't pay the players.
Have you ever heard the story about that? Because he spoke to he spoke to Ryan Russillo on the Ryan Russillo podcast about it, because Ryan had known him from Texas Tech, and they asked him about what his first game. I didn't know where he lived, but I knew he bought a house because of this, because he said he was. I think were they 21-0 down after like 15 minutes of the first game. They were quite far behind in the first game they played, and he was thinking in his head, I can't believe I bought a house, because I'm going to get fired and I'm going to need to sell it and lose a load of money. But boy, what a house. What a house. Nearly as good as Andy Reid's consistent brilliance in a Tommy Bahama shirt.
That guy.
Neil, let's move on. We wanted to look at a draft winner each, team or player. A draft loser each, team or player, and then we're going to move on to some fancy landing spots which we think have been good. But Neil, who is your draft winner?
The big winner for me is Dak Prescott, because Dak Prescott was excellent last year with Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, Randall Cobb, Tavon Austin, and Jason Witten. Their offense was brilliant. They fell short because of scheme and coaching, should we say. So what do they say? Well, we're not going to pay you your contract. You know, we're not going to give you the big money contract that every other franchise quarterback seems to get, Dak. We want you to take a team-friendly deal. Almost as if, we want you to prove yourself again. Well, that sucks, obviously, but we won't get into that. So how do they expect him to repeat last year's success? You draft CeeDee Lamb and give him the best wide receiver trio in the NFL.
I like to call out every single team between 6 and 18 where they drafted, right? Did they draft at 18?
17.
17, sorry. I hold you all personally responsible for my misery, and I will find you all, and you will all be dealt with accordingly. Because luckily though, I guess it will be Dak Prescott's only winner for this year, because I doubt they'll franchise him again.
I mean, there's now a movement going on Twitter, starting that it's a good thing to draft the spot immediately after the Falcons, because they're going to do something stupid and leave the door open for you.
So you wouldn't have picked that. You wouldn't have picked that cornerback then, and no one did of.
By all accounts, they had received offers for the pick. Now, I can only assume there may have been teams who wanted to jump ahead of Dallas when they saw CeeDee Lamb was dropping, but the Falcons said, no, I'm not going to lie to you. I think, let's say, hypothetically speaking, the Eagles had traded with the Falcons and the Eagles had gone from 21 to 16. I think their cornerback might have been there at 21.
Yeah. For those who aren't aware of, they've now announced what CeeDee Lamb's number is. That number is 88. For those who are unaware, that number has been okay for Dallas wide receivers. When the worst one of the big group is Des Bryant, you're doing all right. The others, for those uneducated, is Drew Pearson and Michael Irvin.
See, I like the way that Dallas doesn't really retire numbers. They obviously put people in the Hall of Fame, but they don't give the numbers out willy-nilly.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
It's like you deserve the 88, or so you'll deserve the next great running back they have. You'll deserve 22. I like that rather than no player will ever wear that number again. Well, shit, dude. Give me something to aspire to.
Exactly.
You gave Barry Sanders. You gave Barry Sanders Billy Sims' number.
Yeah, absolutely. Mine's a team, Neil. There's a lot of teams who draft a quarterback, and we can slag that quarterback off or whatever, and then don't do anything to help said quarterback.
Packers.
We may Eagles. We may come on to that later. But what you can at least say is John Elway, however much we've slagged him off, has at least attempted to give Drew Lock some people to throw to. And when I say some people, I'm talking Jerry Jeudy and KJ Handler. In my opinion, based on what I saw, no expert, far from it, Jerry Jeudy was the best wide receiver in the draft. Handler was excellent at Penn State. You add that to the Melvin Gordon, whether you like it or not situation, and they are giving Drew Lock the opportunity to win if he's talented enough to do so.
Don't forget, they also drafted the Missouri tight end Albert O. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his surname.
Just call him O. Just give it up.
Now, this offense, all of a sudden, you've got Jerry Jeudy, excellent, polished technician. You've got Cortland Sutton, who's a big bully on the outside. You've got KJ Hamler. You've got Albert O. You've got Noah Fant.
Yep.
You've got Philip Lindsay. You've got Melvin Gordon. This offense is quick. It's almost as if there is another offense in their division that they've noticed. But it's as you say, I mean, they've given Drew Lock a chance to be good, and I just think how productive this offense and the pieces in it are going to be in 2021 when Aaron Rodgers is the Denver Broncos quarterback. Well,
yeah, it does fall into that. What's your fallback plan when you've got all this talent and no one to throw it to? Ginger Rifle and Andy Dalton available on line 4. But yeah, that kind of situation needs to be dealt with. I don't think we can get onto it, so we may as well get onto it here, Neil. AFC West, shootout everywhere. Just shootout everywhere. Just get that on TV as much as the 9:15 games UK time next season are gonna be epic.
They're usually I'll watch the first half, but then I'll probably go to bed. No, I'm staying. Tell you what, Neil, you look tired this morning. I was up till 1. I have no regrets.
Neil, give me a draft loser.
Big draft loser for me is Marlon Mack, and that's because Marlon Mack is playing for a team on the Indianapolis Colts who seem to be buying into what you should do with the modern running back, i.e. draft him. In his third year, draft his replacement, run him into the ground, let the rookie get acclimated, rinse and repeat. Marlon Mack had 1,000 rushing yards last year. They don't use him as a pass catcher. He's dealt with a litany of injuries in the NFL. So what do? It's a contract year for Marlon Mack. So what do? They draft one of the best running back prospects of the last 25 years in Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor, whose worst season in college was when he rushed for 1,977 yards. Jonathan Taylor, who was college dominator, which takes into account the number of total team yards and touchdowns, 41.8%, 93rd percentile. Okay, well, maybe he's just a volume monster. Okay, well, he ran a 4.3940, which gave him a speed score of 121.7. He had a 10% target share, but we've seen that maybe they don't want to trust their lead running back in Indianapolis with the receiving game, so they'll give it to Nyheim Hines. Marlon Mack, the best you can hope for is an early season timeshare. Say because you're not going to catch passes either.
Jonathan Taylor, very good. I'm concerned by volume, not volume for the Indianapolis Colts, but the fact he's ran 700 times for 3 consecutive years at Wisconsin. Now that falls into although it's slightly different because they've obviously drafted. I think he took him at 41. And it was their 3rd pick, so slightly different, but falls into that Trent Richardson marking. You know those Alabama running backs who just ran and ran and ran, and then got to the NFL and were like, bloody hell, I'm tired. And also, but I think it does help that he's got an excellent offensive line. I do think they will use him. I do think it's bad news for Marlon Mack owners. The issue is, in the dynasty draft situation, I'm running back needy, and the problem with Taylor for me is how much volume does he get early doors? Say he has a half. is he getting 10 carries the first game? And if he doesn't break one out, then it's 10 carries next game. Whereas actually I need him to break a 70-yard run. That's a bit of a gamble in this kind of situation, because I would expect some kind of, they're going to run it 30 times. You'd think in the first game it's going to be it's going to be like 15, 10 and 5 maybe for those. That's not. Yeah.
I mean, in Dynasty, as you say, if you're running back needy, you're probably going to, you may be tempted to look elsewhere. So someone like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, whose role should immediately become apparent. Maybe someone like DeAndre Swift, who again is going to be, but again it's still going to be like time sharing.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Maybe I look maybe at that Cam Akers maybe for the Rams. You don't know. I guess the thing is you don't know these situations, do they? And the other situation obviously is we're under some kind of illusion that they're going to play NFL this year.
I mean, I do wonder, that I don't think you'd be able to get Cam Akers, because the guy is that talented that he can play running back, he can play wide receiver, and he can also play offensive line, and probably, play in the rest of the positions that the Los Angeles Rams had need for, but instead they spent a luxury pick on a running back.
Again.
Seriously, Snead, you're gone, mate.
Yeah, you can't.
You're done.
So on the opposite of value picks, Neil, in the loser category is certain teams do certain things and have always done certain things, and they take best player available.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't and do you know what they do not care about? Twitter and fan bases. So Packers fans understand the concern. Understand that you didn't want Jordan Love. Understand that in his whole entire career, Aaron Rodgers has thrown to one touchdown to a first round pick, and that was last year, and it was Mercedes Lewis, so it shouldn't really count. However, this is what the Packers have always done, and you don't have to like it. And I think you are a loser, because last year you went 13-3. And you really all moaned about that he had no one to throw it to apart from Devontae Adams. And you didn't address that need when you absolutely could have. Eagles fans, you didn't want Rager. I know that. I understand that. I'm fine with it. You absolutely didn't want to draft a quarterback with your second pick. I completely understand that. That's fine. In recent times, you've been to a Super Bowl and multiple playoff appearances. So there's a possibility that Howie Roseman may know what he's doing. And okay, we can all laugh at the Taysom Hill situation, but don't be surprised if your man is playing some snaps during some games early doors NFL this season.
I'll get to the Eagles in a bit, so I can build up to it. The thing that you say about the Green Bay Packers, and that this is how they've always done it, yes, they don't invest the first round on offensive skill position players. They like to look later. Devontae Adams wasn't a first round pick. Jordy Nelson wasn't a first round pick. 35 wide receivers got drafted over the last weekend, and the Green Bay Packers took none of them. Instead, they drafted Derrick Henry light, Kyle Juszczyk light, and came out and said, we want to move to a run-based team. It is the year 2020. You're a coach. You're the head coach. You're the offensive coordinator of a team that when you left, no one shed a tear. No one, not one player, not one coach came out and went, we're really going to miss Matt LaFleur. And what happened the first year without you? They got to a championship game as well. But because you're Kyle Shanahan's mate, you're going to copy him. Yeah, we want a run-based attack. Yeah, run. Yeah. Very, very good. Let's have a look at the San Francisco running back, shall we? Small, quick, assets in the passing game. We want them. A.J. Dillon has caught 20 passes in college. Aaron Jones in a contract year. You're probably not going to sign him. Jamal Williams is replacement level. spending a third-round pick on a tight end fullback. I'm sorry, no. This draft is a pissing competition between Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers, and ultimately, it looks like Matt LaFleur is going to win it. But I would question: does anyone win this?
So, can you remember what the noise was around the Green Bay Packers when they drafted Aaron Rodgers, when Brett Favre was actually younger than Aaron Rodgers is now? Was the noise like this? Because I can't remember. Now, I know it's slightly different because Brett had said he was going to retire 47 times. I think it was maybe he'd attempted to retire maybe once at this point, I think. Maybe twice. But I look at that situation, and whether you like Jordan Love or not, it's fine, right? Okay. They understand that quarterbacks don't live forever. I was in a Slack from the Touchdown group today where I suggested that the New England Patriots should sign Andy Dalton. And I was laughed at, and someone said they'd be better off signing Jameis Winston. Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, it's incorrect. It's absolutely and utterly incorrect. And, that's fine. I'm not going to call that person's name out because that's fine. That's their opinion. It's just not mine. It's a wrong one. But anyway. But excellent planning, New England Patriots. Like, really good. Because now you've got Jared Stidham, and people are talking about whether you should take Cam Newton, who we don't think can pass a physical, Andy Dalton, or Jameis Winston. So the Packers have gone, we think he's quite good. People in the draft thought he was quite good, so we're going to take him because, let's be honest, he's an effing pain in the arse. And has been an effing pain in the arse for 5 years. Is he unbelievably talented? Yep. Will we let him off most of the time? Yep. Is his stick becoming boring? Yep. So, will he probably win a Super Bowl with a different team in a vengeful, spiteful way? You better believe your ass he will.
This one's for John.
Yeah, but this is the world you live in. Some alpha males act differently to others. And just because Peyton and Tom smiled a bit more doesn't mean that they weren't stone cold killers. Aaron is not happy. He hasn't been happy forever. And if it was up to him and he got the opportunity, he'd leave. But it doesn't work like that in the NFL, so he won't. But eventually, they're going to cut him.
Yeah, but the problem is, though, that even if you got Jordan Love, yeah, that's fine. You traded up to draft him. You traded past Seattle and Baltimore to draft him. Were they going to draft him?
That's an issue. No, unless you're thinking someone else is also going to draft up, that's stupidity.
Yeah, but as I say, it's the fact that we get this. So you can get out of Aaron Rodgers' contract at the end of this year. It'd be messy. But, okay, so say Jordan Love, let's say there is an NFL season, big if we know. Jordan Love plays next year and throws to Devontae Adams. Oh, no, we'll just pound the rock. Well, you've already telegraphed to the NFL that that's what you want to do.
I see 2 years of Rodgers personally. Like, that doesn't mean that they haven't got anyone to throw it. That doesn't mean you're going to have anyone to throw it to in 2 years, by the way. I'm just saying I see it as 2 years thing. Yeah. This is interesting, and it's a great story. And anyone who listens to this show knows that I never tire of really going in on the Green Bay Packers, who quite possibly, with the exception of the New England Patriots, are one of the most entitled fan bases of all time. But that's not why we're here. We're here because the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts, and the world went absolutely mental.
Now, the point I make is that I've come round on the Jalen on the Justin Rager, Jalen Rager,
Jalen Rager,
because he's quick. And Justin Jefferson is probably going to be maybe a better wide receiver. Is he a better wide receiver for what the Philadelphia Eagles need now? No. because the Philadelphia Eagles the last 2 years have tried to put fast outside wide receivers in their system to give Carson Wentz the vertical shots he wants to take. And both times it failed spectacularly because they put all their eggs into one basket. And then they must have looked at the Kansas City Chiefs and went, you're allowed more than one wide receiver who can run a 4-3? Who knew? So Rager, I'm coming round to. An awful lot has been made about how poor his offense was last year, and that's explained away an awful lot of his production. I digress. The problem you have is this is not a city or a fan base that gives people the benefit of the doubt unless they are called Brian Dawkins. So you take a quarterback. The Eagles needed a backup quarterback because Nick Sudfeld has not developed, despite the fact the Eagles are a #quarterback factory. And you saw that when Carson Wentz got injured last season in the Seahawks game at the very end of the season in which he played all 16 games, he stresses, and he got injured thanks to a cheap shot, he stresses. Josh McCown came in and was awful. He looked like a 40-year-old man playing with minimal preparation. Because guess what?
He was a 40-year-old. He was a 40-year-old man with minimal preparation. Because that's what he was. Yeah. If
the Eagles had taken, let's say it was Jalen Hurts, had taken him in the 4th round, we don't have this conversation. We do not have this conversation. But you took him in the 2nd round after befuddling most of the fan base with the selection the day before, especially because I'm not big on you don't trade up for wide receivers in the 1st round. No point. Find something else. But if CeeDee Lamb is starting to fall, do you know what? I like Jalen Hurts. I like Justin Rager. I'd rather have CeeDee Lamb and then get a quarterback later. We still need we still need a cornerback. Okay. Howie threw some darts on day 3, and it was good to see because the Eagles basically said, we're going to forget production, let's get us some athletes. And that's okay to do in day 3. What they did on day 1 was baffling. What they did on day 2 was inexcusable. That is why I cannot be happy about the draft overall, especially on a team that has shown over the last decade it cannot develop wide receivers. The Eagles have had 6 different wide receiver coaches in 6 seasons. And, to take all these shots on day 3 when a polished prospect was available in the 1st round that you could have traded up for and say whether the Falcons weren't playing ball or whatnot. And you can't say that maybe should we try and get them ahead of Dallas? Well, who's to say that the Cowboys wouldn't have taken a 2nd round pick? You traded with them on the Saturday. Would it have been a case of, if CeeDee Lamb drops to us, we should take him? Oh, hang on, what if we don't take him? But we take a position of need here and we've got a 2nd round pick there. If the Cowboys were being competent, maybe that's what I'd have thought. The Jalen Hurts thing, yeah, you can come in and say, Taysom Hill on steroids. Great phrase. Wonderful phrase. What does it mean?
It means that. What do you mean? It means that in the period of time Taysom Hill is thrown to 7 New Orleans Saints players, Jameis Winston is thrown to 10. Yeah, it's fun and aggressive, and I just get to sit back quietly and go, ooh, that was an interesting pick. I like what they did there, and I'm not used to that, but we'll get on to that momentarily, Neil. Great fantasy landing spot, slightly different from winners and losers, but just guys who you think will be in a position to do well in fantasy this year based on where they were drafted. First one from you, sir.
Again, this is assuming a degree of normality, which we're not going to get. So let's say, I think I like the pick of Rager. I don't think he's going to come in and get 25% of the targets, but I think he's the type of player who can deliver you splash plays. So, some weeks he might have the 3 for 120 and 1. Other weeks he might have 6 for 70. Then other weeks he might just be an absolute dud. But, we're playing, popular format, that's grown in popularity around the world over the last few years is best ball, and that's the type of player, that you bring him in. You don't have to worry about your lineup. You just set, you draft the players, and then the computer sorts it out. And the classic players for that type of wide receivers are your Deshaun Jacksons, who they're not going to be every week superstars, but they'll chip in. Now, in terms of PPR, he's not going to be great because he's not going to be dominant. But as a wide receiver 3, he's going to have weeks. And as you say, the depth chart in the Eagles wide receiver room, it was pretty slim.
Yeah, my first one is DeAndre Swift. Bad news for Kerryon Johnson lifers, but it's in that similar situation you mentioned on Marlon Mack. Kind of use and abuse and then throw away and pick up the next shiny running back toy to go with. I think he'll have the most yards by a rookie this season.
Swift.
So I'm going DeAndre Swift and the Lions because they're all about defense and running because as you said, it's 2020.
The only issue I have with the Lions is that they've told us for years what they think of Kerryon Johnson. He's not a workhorse. They don't want him handling 70% of the opportunities. They've drafted DeAndre Swift. Do you really think they're going to hand him the role that we wanted for Kerryon?
No, but so I think he'll get more carries than Kerryon Johnson will, and I think they're going to run it more than people think.
Oh yeah, I mean the carries for me could be a wash. I think the fact that Swift actually has a pass catcher.
Yeah, exactly right.
So in fantasy, I mean this is going to be a messy committee for the length of time that Kerryon is on the team. But yeah, DeAndre Swift, he's a Georgia running back. Take that for what you will. So his college dominator isn't as high as maybe you'd like to see. Certainly nowhere near as high as Taylor's. But Georgia running backs don't have 80% of the carries because they've got that many of them.
Yeah, true. Who's your next one, Dutton?
Next one is Justin Jefferson. I think in terms of pure targets among the rookie wide receivers, he could see the most targets. What he does with them, of course, is irrelevant. The Minnesota Vikings have got absolutely nothing at wide receiver. By the way, can we just address the fact you drafted 15 players in a season where you're not going to have an off-season or a training camp or OTAs or minicamp? Move up.
well, yeah, I guess, yeah, it's interesting, right? I guess it's funny, and I think, if you go to Washington and Trent Williams, I don't think they wanted the pick this year. I think they wanted the pick next year, and then the pick that they wanted next year wasn't as high as they wanted it, and eventually had to go for what they got, right? And it's just how it is. But yeah, it's a strange one.
But I mean, their wide receiver cupboard is bare. He's a good player, Justin Jefferson. I just wonder, is he a bit similar to Adam Thielen? And if that's the case, is there a danger they're going to cannibalise each other's role this season? I mean, Thielen's on quite decent money, but I think they can get out next year.
So you're saying that the Vikings wide receivers may not complement each other and may cause issues and friction between them and the quarterback? Because I don't know how would that situation and what would it look like? Because I don't think I've seen it before.
Oh, have you heard, whenever, people write score equalisers in the last minute and commentators saying you couldn't write this script? I wouldn't know.
My next one, Dutton, is a homer pick. It's Anthony Gibson for Washington. I don't know that much about him. I'm not going to lie to you, but you get to hear things like being compared to CMC and what type of player are you? I'm just an offensive weapon. I love all that. I'm all in. Him and AGG, Gibson Gandhi, you can do a Rubik's Cube in a minute and 16 seconds, like learns the guitar and knows how to do it in like 30 seconds. These are the kind of guys who I'm like, Washington don't usually draft people like this. This is actually logical and makes sense.
The thing about Gibson is that there seems to be some question among the fantasy community. Where's he going to play? Because I believe he was listed as a running back.
He was listed as a running back, but I don't care about that. I want him on the field. I'm not particularly bothered where he plays.
Yeah, I mean, he's fast. 4.39 40-yard dash time. He averaged 11.2 yards per carry in college. He had 12% college year. According to Player Profiler, his best comparable player, and this takes into account workout metrics and college production, is Joe Mixon.
Can I have Joe Mixon without the stuff? As long as I get Joe Mixon without the stuff, I'm fine.
Without the stuff is always good. By the way, AGG, yeah, you do the Rubik's Cube, that's great. Can you run a 7 route?
We're going to find out. At the moment, you just run that 9, and we'll see how it goes.
I don't care which side of reds, which side of greens. Can you read cover 3 robber?
We're about to find out. I don't know the answer to that. Who's your final pick, Neil?
My final pick is Jonathan Taylor. I just think the Colts are going to be clever in how they use him. I think the job will become his more by the end of the season when Marlon Mack starts getting phased out because they want to turn it over to him. And I just think that, for the 3.5 years that Taylor will be the dominant member of that backfield, you're going to get some really good production behind that Colts offensive line.
Final one from me. Let's not overthink the room here. Tua Tagovailoa. Got to Miami. That's good news. Got a better offensive line. Got Howard. Got Breeder. Devontae Parker. All the patch catchers. Mike Gesicki and the like. If he's fit and he plays, he will be good. And I think all the noise about all the other stuff will go away.
I think I would not be surprised if Tua didn't start a game until November or December. Because there is no pressure on the Miami Dolphins to win the Super Bowl in 2020. So let the offensive line learn how to be an NFL offensive line.
Yeah.
We know what Ryan Fitzpatrick is. He's Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's fun. He's got a beard. He went to Harvard, in case anyone knew. He's competent. Let the pieces gel before you put Tua in. Let Tua get into a weight program. Let him, fully heal, and then say, okay, it's what Therese Paler calls the Mahomes plan. Mahomes walked into a situation that he knew the system. He'd been running the scout team. He picked up everything and he sat and watched. Let Tua do that, and then when he is ready, put him in and go for 2021. But little hint, I know we're in a lockdown, and I know the draft has come and gone, and I know we're struggling for content now. If you put out shit saying that Dan Marino's number should be unretired for a college prospect that everyone, and I mean everyone, has some question marks about still, you need to delete every account you own.
That's a lot of accounts. It's a lot of accounts, and I'll have to sort that out. Neil, where can people catch you for the rest of this week?
This week at playerprofile.com, I have written a piece about 5 winners of the NFL draft, and shortly coming there will be 5 losers. That was more fun.
Slagging people off always is.
Yeah, I took part in a rookie dynasty mock draft over at Numberfire. You can find that there over at Numberfire. Done quite a few pieces about Baltimore rookie wide receiver, Devin Duvernay. Just a spoiler alert, Devin Duvernay loves his fancy football. He's my wide receiver 1.
Nothing for me at the moment, but stuff coming soon for the touchdown on fits and stuff. It's going to be good. Lots of content coming soon. But before that, want to interact with me? I am at Mandy7. Neil is at N13. Combined, we are at waxing_lyrical. The draft is over. Therefore, sport now no longer exists. Let's hope it's back soon, but wait and see. And everyone else, just stay safe. But until then, these top guys are out.